Hey guys, welcome back to Racing with Ray. Today we'll be talking about why it's so important to set long-term fitness goals. We'll also be going through an example of how to set a long-term fitness goal using the example of the Boston Marathon. Now, the Boston Marathon is assumed by many runners to be the pinnacle of running success. So without further ado, let's get started. So the first question we wanted to answer was, why is it important to set long-term fitness goals? And quite simply, the answer is because it enables us to do hard things. It's not easy to wake up in the morning and go to the gym at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. It's also not easy to increase our pace and our mileage over time. But when we have a long-term fitness goal in mind, it is that much easier to stay focused on our goal and dial in on each of those workouts. We should probably clarify what we mean by short-term versus long-term goals. A short-term goal might be something like this. You can currently do 10 push-ups, but in 30 days, you want to be able to do 20 push-ups. Another example might be, currently you can run a mile in 10 minutes, but in a couple months, you want to be able to run a mile in only 9 minutes. Short-term goals are a great thing because they keep you focused and engaged over time. We'll do a video specifically about these later on, so if you're interested in that, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. But in the meantime, let's get back to the long-term goals. Long-term goals, when you set them, seem a little outrageous, honestly. They might be something like this. If you can currently run a mile, but you say, I want to run a marathon, that is a long-term goal. Doable, but it'll be a challenge. Another long-term goal might be, right now you've never swum a lap in a pool, but you want to be able to go outside to open water and do a 2-mile swim. Again, a very good example of a long-term goal. Now, I don't want to spend too long on theory, so let's dive right into a practical example of something that your long-term goal could be, like running the Boston Marathon. We'll talk about what the Boston Marathon is, why people think it's so cool, and how you could create a plan to get there. So why is the Boston Marathon assumed by so many people to be at the pinnacle of running success? Part of it is due to its long history and tradition. The Boston Athletic Association first established the Boston Marathon in 1897. That's over 120 years ago. At the time, only 15 people ran that race, but these days, about 30,000 people participate in the Boston Marathon every year. The other thing that's so cool about the race is that athletes from over 112 different countries have participated over the years. In 2019, the guy who won was from Kenya, and he won it in 2 hours and 7 minutes. The woman who won the race was from Ethiopia, and she won it in 2 hours and 23 minutes. Those are some pretty fast times. Athletes of all ages participate in this race as well. People as young as 18 or even over 80 years old participate in the race. The guy who won in the 80-plus category this past year did it in 3 hours and 47 minutes. And if that doesn't inspire you, I don't know what will. Now, you may be aware that not everyone can get into the Boston Marathon every year. They have a limited field size, or the amount of people able to participate, of about 31,500. And that sounds like a lot, but you'd be surprised at how many people want to run the Boston Marathon. So they have qualifying times where you must run another marathon within a certain amount of time in order to even have a chance of running Boston. In 2019, the qualifying time for a male of ages 18 to 35 was 3 hours. Now, the qualifying time for a woman of the same age bracket was 3 hours and 30 minutes. As people get older, the time they are able to run that marathon increases, so they have more of a shot. So be sure to check online to see what the current qualifying time for your age bracket is. Now, due to the current pandemic, the race size may need to be limited in the future. So beginning in April of 2021, we'll see what the new standard going forward is. But because you now know that Boston is so difficult to get into, it makes a pretty good long-term goal. Since we're serious about our long-term goal of the Boston Marathon, we need to create a plan. So there are 4 different steps that I would recommend, starting with this. Get the complete picture of the situation. We actually did this in the last step by looking at the qualifying times for the Boston Marathon and planning how we would get there. The next thing that we should look at is this. set a few short-term goals. Now, if you've never run a race before, you might start with a 5K or a 10K to get used to the experience. If you have run a marathon before, you may want to run a couple additional marathons so that you can get your qualifying time even lower. Next, you'll want to do this. Set a date. If you don't have a date planned for your Boston Marathon, how are you going to set all the dates for the short-term goals that you have planned? You need a clear progression of goals and timings so that you'll be able to stay on track. The last step I would recommend is this. Create a physical reminder. One way that I've tried to do this is that I write out all of my long-term goals and I post it on a sheet of paper beside my bed or next to my bedroom door. That way I have to pass by it and see it every single day and remember what I'm working toward. I'd recommend that you create some kind of physical reminder for yourself so that on the harder days when you don't really want to get out of bed and start your workout, you'll remember that this is why you're doing this. This is why you're working out instead of watching Netflix or whatever your other guilty pleasure may be. The question of the day is, what is your long-term fitness goal and when are you going to accomplish it by? Let me know in the comments below. Also be sure to like this video and subscribe below for more tips and tricks on how to improve your personal best every day. Bye guys!